crossover point down in the 300s.
Yeah. A lot of times the Zobel doesn't do much other than impedance compensation. It won't affect the SPL that much usually.
So even with just a first order crossover, so I think it sounds pretty good.
Well, good.
It might work. It might work better with a second order, especially on the woofers. But
yeah,
I'm just going to play with it for a while.
Yeah, I've been listening to my three-ways for a few weeks, and I noticed once in a while on a few CDs, I'd notice a little bit of harshness in some points in there. So I got looking a lot closer at the SPL response. I had to zoom way in, and there was at about 6,000 hertz, there was a 1 dB peak.
Oh.
And my first thought was it's unnoticeable, but it was a resonance there. And so I changed there's fourth order on the tweeter, and I ended up changing a 0.13 millihenry to a 0.16 millihenry.
Yeah, and that rolled it down a little quicker.
It with all the other stuff in the circuit, it made a little dip right there in the response.
Oh yeah.
It took out a little over 1 decibel and attenuated that resonance just enough. And then thank goodness for simulations. I thought, well, I'll add a resistance in line with that too to pad it down a little bit more. And about the best I could do, or the job that did the resistor that did the best was a 0.33 ohm. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, lots of, I imagine lots of commercial designers go through that very sort of thing and make tiny little tweaks in their crossover before they're happy.
Hi, Dana.
Hey, well, that's awesome. I turn on my computer at 12 o'clock and you guys are going, man.
That's because you let the meeting open,
Yeah, I learned that, what is that setting called? Oh, I don't know, the lobby. Turns out the lobby's just a jail. So it just keeps people sitting there waiting. And then, yeah, anyway, so I turned off lobby and you guys can just get right in. So that's awesome.
Right.
Man. Hey,
So
Tim.
what's happening?
Hey, Dana.
Go ahead, Renan.
Hi. What's happening with your speaker, Dana?
I have a little bit of, I have toys to show.
Right.
So let's see if this is going to show up. Oh yeah, that shows it pretty good. So that is a Mundorf, whatever it is, D25.6 something R tweeter. And it's kind of cool. You can see right through it.
Oh.
So, but yeah, so it's a air motion transformer, which I guess you might be able to see the little riblets. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because, for those of us who grew up around the Heil air motion transformers, they were this actual block of laminated steel, just 20 pounds. And so it's just awesome to see, that's been replaced by these samarium, cobalt, or whatever rare earth bar magnets, just slender bar magnets on each side.
Oh.
And that's that, and then just the metal plate, top and bottom. And so it's amazingly compact and relatively simple. And then the front plate looks like it's just been maybe you can kind of see looks like just some foam tape holding this front plate on. You can order it with either the round or this rectangular plate. And it's got a little coil of wire, so no terminals on it per se. And so I'm sure Tim's looking at this. Oh.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So that, and then because I can't leave well enough alone, I decided to, whoop, let me get some better light on here. There we go. So I 3D printed a waveguide for it.
Wow.
Whoa.
So, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out, especially this bottom surface is very tricky. When you print it, this surface is on the print bed. And so, of course, it comes out really nice. But then these other surfaces, it has to print a platform for these to sit on when they're being printed. And I found a new slicer setting, anyway, that allowed you to make a dense infill for 2 layers. So it made a very flat platform for 2 layers of printing that were fully filled in before it printed these. So when I'd done this in the past, oh, I probably don't have it. You know, this undersurface would be really rough and not connected well. And so this is like about as good as you could ever expect for an upper layer. So anyway, so I carefully matched the indent in the front of the tweeter so that they fit together just like buddies. There we go. And so that's the
Nice.
Wow.
that's the idea. And so yeah, so it'll fit on there. There's Darcy and Howard. So I haven't had a chance to fire them up yet, so that'll happen here maybe this week. I'll get some tests. But what led me down this path, you think, oh, gee, you found this really great tweeter. Why are you putting a waveguide on it? So I looked at the response of this tweeter, and it has a rising response with rising frequency. And so I thought, well, putting a waveguide on it will add a rising response as the frequency goes down, so it should kind of level out the response actually, as well as give it some low end support. So yeah, so I figured that'd be pretty cool. So, I see Terry. Terry's in a tunnel.
I am.
Oh, Terry, you're in a tunnel. What happened?
Yeah, I tell you what, with tape and cardboard and stuff, I've erected a stand
Excellent.
for this. It won't attach to the top of my screen very well. So
You have an
anyway,
optical waveguide. There you go.
yeah, that's what I need, a waveguide. Here it is.
So yeah, so I guess I was hoping to show some curves. I was hoping to measure those before but I got distracted with my my solar battery charger project. So anyway, but
So what's the cost of that driver you just got, the Mundo?
oh my gosh,
Approximately.
was it 400,
Oh,
350-ish? I can't. Maybe Tim remembers.
okay.
But they're expensive.
And you
Well,
said
yeah, you could just look at it as it's only $200 per side, front and back. You know?
There you go.
so have you tried them at all yet?
I did. I hooked it up with, you know, using my LS35A. I just unhooked the tweeter from that and just hooked it up. And it sounds very clear. Yeah, it was very pleasant. And then the idea that it's going to play out the front and the back is kind of fun. So, yeah.
Great.
There-
So
there's a-
when's the other driver coming?
Well, I got it was interesting, you know, so I bought this through Matasound, and then it came from Germany, right? Yeah. Because Mundorf. And Matasound was just amazing. You know, they were like email right back and really quick. I probably got 4 or 5 emails from them telling me exactly, you know, the day I ordered, the next day, okay, and then a week later, and then, oh, it's coming in our shipment on the 20th, and then, yeah, and then it showed up perfectly. The other one I sent to Falcon Acoustics, heard nothing. You know, it's like month went by, nothing. So I emailed them, and then nothing. I emailed to a different email address, and then I got this, oh, sorry. And so it's supposed to come in a month. So they contacted Volt, and apparently all this stuff is made to order. There's none of this sitting on the shelves.
Oh, okay.
So Volt said, oh, they had trouble getting one of the parts.
Okay.
So, you know, of course, in this environment, it's difficult. And so they didn't have any stock
Oh,
of one of those parts. So you just have to wait. And so they said probably third week of September, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll get to England or whatever. They'll get to the distributor, and then a week later they'll be here. So probably end of
what year is that they're talking about?
They didn't really say. Yeah. Well, you know, and then if they send it through USPS, might be
Yeah,
after
who
the
knows?
election.
Yeah.
You saw it 3-4 weeks after the election. So yeah.
great.
But yeah, so I'm really curious to hear those mid ranges. That should be another. It's kind of a novel driver yeah.
Excellent.
So what type of crossover are you using, or is this going to be an active speaker?
Yeah. So this was a project Tim was interested in, and so I recommended we do it active just because these drivers are, you know, especially if he wants to make any adjustments to it on the fly, you know, you listen to it for a month, you want to change it. So the active crossover seemed like the way to go, especially when you put that much money into drivers.
Oh yeah.
Then you go, well, okay, the cost of an active crossover and, you know, whatever amplifiers you need is really not going to add up to much. I mean, we could get whatever, you know, because these don't take much power. Like the mid-range is a 94 dB efficient. So, you know, 15 watts is probably going to make that thing play louder than he'll ever want. So a few of these chip amps or whatever he wants to do, you know, and for probably $400, we could put together active crossover and 4 channels of amp to do the mids and tweets. And then you bring whatever stereo amp you want to do the woofers, and you're down the road. So yeah. And so I'm building a pair. I just went off. He hasn't bought parts yet, but I got enthused after reading about the parts. So I just bought a pair for myself, and who knows.
Dana?
Oh, neat.
So I can just use what I've already assembled for my speaker last year. I've got whatever 4 channels of amplifier per side, and the crossover sitting there. So I can just pull the top cabinets off what I built before, and all I need is a sheet of plywood with 2 holes in it to put these things together. There's no cabinet, right? It's just a baffle. So
Dana,
it seems so simple. Yeah.
what's your choice for an active crossover?
Oh, so I'm using 2 of the Mini DSP 2x4 HD.
Okay.
Because I had 4-way on each side, and so it used up.
I've got the original one, but I've never bought an HD version.
Yeah, I'm sure the original one's probably great.
I never used it as a subwoofer crossover, so.
Oh, that'd be even. Yeah, I would stick with the regular one for the subwoofer as opposed to the HD, because it has a little lower sampling rate, which will work better at lower crossover frequencies. So.
Hey, Dana, I have it's probably a dumb question, but
Hopefully I can still answer it. Yeah.
Okay. That waveguide, is that going to go on the front or the back?
Well, so I'm likely going to do 2 of them and mount 1 on each side and kind of just sandwich it between them, I think. Because you need to, you know, like you saw in that Tetris, you know, you want to put it in a pretty thick piece of material.
Right.
And so then you end up with a cavity behind that tweeter because it's such a thick, you know, the tweeter's only what, 1/2 inch thick.
Mm-hmm.
And you might put it in a 1.5 inch thick board or something. So you'll end up with this cavity. Well, you might as well intentionally flare it at, you know, in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you want both sides to see the same radiation impedance too?
It seems like that would be a good idea, doesn't it? Keep it kind of balanced. So, yeah. So that
How
might,
expensive?
yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. How expensive are those things to print?
Oh, well, it takes what? For you, it's $100. For me, it's $3. No.
Okay.
The usual markup.
Well, I mean, that's basically it. So if you order, I looked at ordering one from an outside print house,
Yeah.
and that's about what it goes for, about $100.
Okay.
Yeah, in materials, it's $3 of plastic, and then it's 30 hours of printer time.
No,
Yeah.
So it's really
it took a whole day and a half or whatever. to print.
Yeah.
How did you design the flare for it?
So copying is really my favorite thing. So that is
Do you have some Chinese blood in you?
I might. So that exponential. So this is an exponential. So whatever y equals e to the x something, but I found that from the Visiton W whatever it is 147 waveguide that they made. So it's the same one I use in my little speakers. So I bought the waveguide from Visiton, and I looked at the data sheet, and they had the curve drawn out on the data sheet, complete with coordinates.
Oh, wow.
So it had like 4 or 5 coordinates, and then I realized I could fit that with an equation really easily. And so once I had the equation, I could make it, whatever. So I found 100 points, evaluated the equation at 100 points, and then I could put that in my drafting software, and you can just drag it around in any shape you want, and away you go. So all that to say, I don't know what it's going to sound like hooked up to this specific tweeter at all. But I mean, it had a characteristic when it was attached to that 1-inch dome. And of course, this isn't a 1-inch dome. So it'll probably do different things in different directions. I don't know. I guess I'm going to find out. So,
what I have found when I was making the wooden waveguides is that the flatter they were and more exponential like that, the more likely they were to look good when measured.
Yeah, I think because it's not a very aggressive horn, it doesn't get into the ripple. I think by being
the ones that I made just with a big roundover bit, like a 1.25 inch radius roundover bit, so the horn ended up being 1.25 inch deep around a 3/4 inch or 1 inch dome. They ended up having spiky ripple things, like say at 8,000 hertz, and then at 13,000 hertz, like that kind of thing. And then when the more flatter ones still supported the lower end, but didn't do that.
Yeah, and so on the other tweeter, this gives about 5 or 6 dB of boost at 2,000 hertz. And then that tapers off as it goes up in frequency, so that there's no boost maybe at around 6,000, 7,000, the boost is gone. So there's kind of just produces this nice gentle rise and a little shelf. So, yeah.
Because also horns, like just kind of more classic horn tweeters, I think they roll off. There's something about the horn that rolls them off on the high end.
Yeah, maybe because they're deeper. I really don't understand that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That should be really cool. I mean, even if you have to play with the shape of it or whatever, one way or another, you'll work it out probably.
Yeah, and now that you got me interested in looking at horn response again, the software, I could load some approximation of this profile into horn response and kind of see and make it into a 5-segment horn and see what that looks like.
Oh, huh.
Yeah. So maybe that's my homework for next time. Hey, we got some more people joined.
Hi, Max.
Hey, Max. Hey, David. And we got Michael from Spokane. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We need. I'm not sure who's playing us music, but anyway. Cool. Well, that's about it. So, what have you been up to, Renan? You've been,
Oh, not much, not too much with with audio, but listening, doing a bit of listening,
yeah.
listening to Dick's music collection that he had
Right.
recorded, which is amazing. It's just vast and deep in jazz, in the jazz area. Things I'd never heard of, and most of the stuff I haven't heard. I mean, it's amazing, just amazing. And the nice thing is that as you listen to it and you try to learn from what you're listening to, you can look up the artists, on your phone and read about them a little bit and see what their lives were like and why they chose to play and dedicate themselves to jazz. And it's just amazing. I'm trying to grab the best of what I'm hearing, at least to my ears, what I like, and putting them into a playlist.
Oh,
so that
nice.
so
Yeah.
that the next time, whenever that is, that we can meet as a group, here, we'll be able to listen to some of those tracks. Some of the stuff from Chick Corea this morning.
Yeah.
I'm working my way alphabetically through the list. So I've gotten to the C's. So I'm on Chick Corea right now. And some of the stuff with Brian Blade and Christian McBride on bass, it's just amazing and beautifully recorded too. Terrific stuff. So yeah, it's been exciting. It's bittersweet, because I think of
Right.
him as I listen to these tracks.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, how come I didn't really all these years, just try to sit and go through his collection with him? But somehow that never really happened. When we were together, he would already have selected choice pieces for me to hear that evening. So, but this is very systematic. I'm amazed, just amazed. Even at his age, to be collecting stuff that's so contemporary. I had never even heard of some of these musicians. It's amazing.
Hey, Renan.
Yeah.
I've been a jazz lover since I was a teenager, so I'm just wondering if can even what you've got just be published, what the recordings are. Not I don't know if you want to share or sell any of that stuff, but I was thinking more of what he's collected
Yeah,
by artist and name.
Yeah. I can print that. I can, print that off and make that available.
Yeah.
It's
That'd be
huge.
great.
I mean, his entire collection is huge, but
Mm.
I've selected some stuff from it that's very typical of each of those artists. So I can publish that. That would be a little bit easier to get through. But otherwise, it's almost a terabyte of files,
Yeah.
tracks.
A lot of that jazz was very well recorded. They took a lot of care.
I took a lot of trouble. He transferred his LPs over to WAV files, the FLAC files, and he did each one tracks from each of the LPs one at a time, and then documented each of them because you don't get the metadata, artists and all of that for free like you do with a CD.
Right.
You have to enter all that information yourself. And he was meticulous. I mean, I think he spent about 5 years over time doing those LPs, transferring those LPs over and and writing the names down, recording the names.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. Every Saturday, I try to spend a few hours going through his collection because I don't know. I thought that would be the least I could do to try to learn some new stuff at least.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dick was a good guy. I miss him too. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. He was a good
it's
guy.
a shame he's gone.
Yeah. I'm thinking of I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm thinking of calling the MSB. I'm very interested in the MSB discrete DAC. It's their resistor ladder DAC that they've sort of refined over, what is it, 8 or 10 years, to the point where it's supposed to be very good, and it has a streaming option on it too. But the trouble is you can't get to hear this stuff anywhere unless you buy it. Right? So I'm going to call the sales manager. They're in California, Los Angeles actually, and see if he's willing to, send a unit up here or something that we can listen to, because that's a very interestingly designed DAC and well engineered. And I'm very curious to hear what it sounds like. Reviews have been very good, but I still want to hear it for myself. I think the basic unit costs $9,000, and then by the time you add the network streaming module onto it, it's closer to 11,000. So it's a lot of money for a DAC. But anyway, I thought it would be good to try to get hold of one and see if we can listen to it somehow.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's my next thing. And a phone call to the sales manager is not going to cost me anything. So
Right.
ask. Worst you can say is no, sorry, we can't do it.
But, Renan, can you say the name of that expensive DAC again?
It's MSB. M as in Mary, S, and B as in boy. MSB. And it's the discrete DAC. They make several DACs based on the same technology, but the one I'm interested in is the discrete DAC.
Does that mean discrete? Doesn't mean it's just a separate component. It means something else.
It means that the resistor ladder that they put in there are with discrete resistors, not one sort of block of whatever.
It's not a chip.
It's not a chip with embedded resistors in it, like most other DACs. These are all separate resistors, but very high precision. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm curious about that one. Now DCS makes a very good DAC, also the Rossini, and that's around the same price. And their DAC, their dealer actually is Definitive Audio. So I mean, sure be nice to see if we can borrow that, the DCS DAC and see what it sounds like, because that's another resistor ladder DAC, but done in a different sort of configuration. It's some sort of a ring configuration rather than a ladder. But I guess it comes down to the same thing in the end. But yeah, they've been at it for years, that company, DCS, have a very good reputation. So I'd be curious to see. That DAC also has streaming capability built in. So that would be nice.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Haven't done anything about it yet, but maybe Definitive wouldn't mind letting me borrow that for a day and try it out.
Yeah.
I don't know how much sales they're doing at the moment with the COVID stuff, but I could at least ask and see. I know the salesperson there. So. Anyway, those are the two things. Not that I'm unhappy with what I have. It's perfectly great. But just out of curiosity, I wanted to see, what some of the top stuff sounds like, and whether it's at all worth that kind of money.
Right. Yeah.
So
we could build a pretty good pair of speakers for that kind of money. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that's about what you're aiming at
Oh, I saw the other day that John Curl, for you guys that are into design and all that, he's pretty well known. His blowtorch preamp, he actually builds them one at a time and sells them to the public. And I think he's asking $2,000,
Wow.
which is not a bad price. They were a lot more than that when they were being manufactured, but obviously all the money comes to him. But
And a solid state.
yeah. Mhm.
Wow, I'd be interested. I've always been interested in trying to find a good solid state preamp.
Yeah, I was going to mention it to you because that was what brought to mind was the fact that, you know, you tried so darn many of them, and there was a
Yeah.
couple that weren't too bad. In fact, there were a lot of them that weren't too bad at all. But yeah, but John Curl, I don't know. His are they're VFETs, I think, is what he's using, and and of course he can't get the ones that he's using anymore. But he bought, you know, like 3 tons of them before they stopped. So he's kind of the major supplier probably in the United States, and maybe Nelson Pass as well. But
And you said that the name of the preamp is Blowtorch?
Blowtorch, right?
The good winter preamp.
Yeah.
So solid state. She would say what kind of stuff. That's very hot.
Oh my gosh. So I
You know,
see.
I've never heard one, but it
Yeah.
has quite a good reputation. So
Yeah,
I thought I'd bring it up.
definitely take a look at that.
So we got Jeff Cole with us today.
They're cool.
Yeah. So Jeff, do you want to tell us any of
I
your
can make it.
audio goings on?
Yeah, let me unplug this. Yeah. Thanks for sending me the link today. I'm happy to be able to make it. My Saturdays have been crazy recently. I do like my other work outside of all this. I'm the program coordinator of the Tacoma Tool Library, so we've shifted to this whole delivery model. So now I'm a delivery service, basically.
Yeah.
So anyways, so like Headspace is not necessarily around audio, or I'm trying to keep to a schedule. Found out last week my teaching position was cut. So yeah, so where I'm going with this is that now I'll actually have be able to have a dedicated schedule to getting all of the speaker stuff going. So earlier, I'm going to back up here to May. Dana and I had a conversation.
We're losing your phone signal there a little bit, Jeff.
Should I? Oh, sorry.
Seems like there's some angle where it cuts out, but you're going good, and then it cuts out maybe when you rotate the phone or something.
Let's do this, and you
Oh,
get
there
to
you
see
go.
some behind the scenes.
Awesome.
So the MDF boxes, that's what I built 20 years ago in high school. Or yeah,
Nice.
that would have been fall 99, so 21 years ago now. And then so those were purposely unfinished because they went to college with me. And so I built them kind of haphazardly. But they've been okay. And then so then the big towers, those were the that's kind of like what grad school was. And then so the story here is that I was talking to Dana about something, and so I pulled up the schematic, and immediately he goes, "Hey, wait, that's not right." And I go, "Oh, well." So I pulled out, like, the crossover is mounted inside the middle section of these. Like the low sections were kind of add on to the top. So originally these things would be it was like the 6-driver line array, and it would have been actually upside down with the tweeter on top, and then
Hey,
I turned into a
Siddharth, could you mute your mic?
yeah. So now, I'm getting some feedback from somebody.
Hey, Siddharth, could you mute your microphone, or maybe I can mute him?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we're cool now. But yeah. So now these things are kind of operating, kind of how I was originally intending them to be. So there's been some new life into revisiting some three-way design work. And that's kind of what I've been up to, and then in crossovers for what I'm actually going to release here in some capacity here later this fall. So in some ways I've been spinning some wheels, in a lot of ways just kind of I guess like getting back to basics on a lot of this stuff, which has been kind of a good reset. So there will be some kits later this year to put together if folks are so inclined.
Cool. Yeah.
So I guess I must have spaced out for a second. The kit, what's the offering going to be of the kit? What kind of?
Oh, so, let me show you the. Let's see here. I gotta flip this around. Yeah, so this is like what you guys have seen before, like the little monitors. Yeah, right. So doing a kit with those, and then I also did like the smaller ones that you guys saw last year. I'll have a dual version. There'll be a stand that is kind of become overrun with prototypes here. It's kind of what's happening. So I always have to thank my wife for being so patient about all this stuff materializing and being in our house. But there were never any surprises about this, because like when we first met, I had speakers like the ones those MDF cabinet ones in the apartment in college. So this was always a known thing that I had all this stuff all over the place.
So Jeff, the enclosures are 3D printed, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And those are of your design, and you've perfected those over the years.
Right. Yeah. So it's been kind of slow going. And I think that's like, I talk about all this stuff that I do outside of this, because I want to do a lot of things and not be focused on only one thing. That was one thing while building those huge towers while I was in grad school. Like I really liked that it was only one component of things I was doing, because those towers were influenced more by website templates than anything else, than speakers outside of like the line array design. I mean, I guess like the speakers would be like, I don't know, there was, I at some point made a joke about, well, I should 3D print and make the wall of sound like the Grateful Dead had in the 70s. I made some joke about that, and then bought all these little tiny 1-inch mini speakers and was going to do this huge thing. But I was working on campus in this website office, and I was working on these templates. So I'd make one example and then be able to have a scalable design for whoever the academic department would be able to use these little modules. So I always liked this scaling ability. And so I got in working on the design, I was attempting to make something that could be repeated, because I didn't have a very large printer at the time. So I had to work with something small and then build on that. And so that's kind of how all this came to mind. And actually, I should turn this around one more time here so you guys can see the very, not the very first ones, but yeah, oh yeah, and then there's more. There's sub boxes. So these hexagonal ones, that was kind of like the first prototype or concept that kind of like meant something. That was something that was not with those little mini speakers that were more of a novelty. Like, so those actually showed some promise, which led to this prototype here, the kind of design that I've been working on since moving to Washington. So yeah, it's kind of been a interesting journey in that. And then like, so like like kind of coming back to the towers, you know, everyone said like when I got out of school, they're like, well, how much are those things? And I said, well, don't ask, because then I'll have to tell you about my student loans. But yeah.
Are you a Doctor Who fan?
You know, surprise, you know, I get asked that a lot also, and I've never watched Doctor Who.
Neither have I, but those look like Daleks kind of.
Yes, I've heard that a lot, and I've so if there are Doctor Who fans, I don't know the entry point on that, but yeah, so I'm trying to get the things that you guys have actually seen in real life and heard ready. And so like this whole COVID situation has sort of kind of helped me in a lot of ways get focused, because there was I think when I last saw everybody in February, there was I had this huge matrix of what the offering was going to be, and like having like a standard and then like a premium version of every single option. So it wound up being like that there were, I think, 18 total variations across the line. And so what was going on earlier in the year was that I gotta plug my phone back in here, folks. I'm dropping out. Yeah, Zoom hogs the battery like crazy. So anyway, thanks for listening to the long stories and the tangents. But yeah, there's things happening.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I didn't know how long you'd be on the call, so I thought we'd jump
Yeah.
in there.
Not a problem. I'm happy to be able to finally be able to attend one of these things. So
yeah.
Yeah, I guess like with everything, everybody's kind of upside down, but
yeah. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Cool, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see we got David Leonard. Welcome.
He's been here for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Somewhere
Where'd he go?
anyway.
I can't see him.
Still here.
He's not up there on the screen.
No.
Oh,
Should be.
Yeah.
oh, there he is. Hey,
I'm here.
you are.
Yeah.
Good. How you doing?
About as well as I can be doing, like everyone else is dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it's been good. It's been good.
You've been listening to your system?
Pardon?
Have you been listening to your system?
I've been more adding to it than listening to it. It's kind of disappointing. Yeah, it's come together. In fact, I got the last piece yesterday. So now I have to start learning how to use it. Got a streamer. I got the Render, the W20. So that arrived yesterday. So I'll be hooking that up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Then I'll start streaming for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Other than that, just playing with it, and I have to find more time. Like you guys were talking about this. Make 3 hours a day and just listen. I haven't done it for quite a while, so it's that time.
Yeah.
Nice. So what kind of beer were you drinking?
Oh, that's it. That, I don't know. We were just having lunch when I turned this thing on, so it was Lagunitas.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always looking for ideas, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So
Awesome. Yeah.
Have you started any new projects?
I actually, for the first time ever, surprise, surprise, I actually started to build something. It's taking me a little bit longer. I'm trying to build some low end, the first, second reflection points. Knock down the low end, see if I can really make the speakers and everything sound better. So they're going to be 3 inches of material and a 2-inch air gap, and they're of course 4 by 2 foot. And I'll have 2 of those for the first and second reflection points. So, but that's fun.
Oh yeah, neat.
I had to go out and buy the tools to build them, so that was kind of fun doing that. So I bought a bunch of tools and having fun.
Yeah. You get enough chisels, you feel like a lawyer?
Pardon?
Did you get enough chisels where you feel like a lawyer?
Yeah.
Well, Terry, I thought I had been around for a while, but I hadn't heard that one before.
No.
That's pretty good.
It probably goes back, as far as I do anyway.
I've known a lot of lawyers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. You know what? There are some lawyers that are really good people, and I know both of them.
Well, I figured out that Harbor Freight delivers, and so if you want to make some really big speaker cables, you get these crimpers. They'll crimp down to like a number 0 wire.
Oh, yeah, that was the one you got for your solar setup, right?
Right, yeah. And so it's pretty cool. It's hydraulic, so it's just like a car jack. You pump it.
Wow.
So it's got a huge mechanical advantage. And this thing was amazing because it's like...
So Dana, so for example, you could crimp banana jacks onto the end of the speaker, or spades onto the end of your speaker wires. Is that the idea?
Well,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could put spades on there.
Okay.
Let's see if I had an example of one of the parts. There we go. Yeah, so here's the parts. There we go. So there's some crimp.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the idea is, yeah, and so these are number, what are these? These are number 4.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like what you'd use for a Toyota's battery cable or something.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's a big chunk of wire.
Yeah, and so these things, they blew my mind because they go from 14 gauge to 0 gauge. It's got a separate set of dies that you put in the thing for each gauge, and then they just make hexagonal, octagonal, whatever. They crunch it into a pattern there.
Yeah.
And
is 0 gauge 1 inch?
I don't think it's quite that big, but it's pretty big. It might be. I don't know. Did Cole know? Yeah.
Isn't gauges like how many of the thing will fit into an inch?
Oh, I don't know. But 0 is like it might be half an inch.
It's larger than half an inch for sure.
Yeah.
It's in the vicinity of 3/4.
Wow.
Depending on the jacket, it might be a full inch. I can't remember from the car audio days. Not many people would get 0 gauge. 4 gauge was pretty standard.
Yeah, that's pretty rich.
I mean, you could draw a lot of current, and then you see the people with the dimming headlights, because their amps are drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So here's some 6 gauge. So, I could make some really, this is what, this 50 foot of 6 gauge. There you go. I can make some pretty cool speaker wires now. Or I'll just hook up my solar panels. Yeah.
Yeah, I put a couple of those connectors on my battery cables for my car.
Yeah.
They finally gave up, and I just stripped them back and got some big deals like that. And I used solder. I didn't crimp them, but yeah, I filled them up and played a torch over the end of them to keep the solder liquid, and then just dipped the cable right into it.
Yeah.
Just held it for about a half a minute, and
There you
I
go.
never had any problems with it after that.
That is nice. Yeah.
Well, I've got nothing to look at, but I've got, I guess, some information to share or a success to share. I was, I've been working on my open baffle, my surfboard open baffle, and it's all pretty good. And there's lots of woofers in it, but it doesn't make any bass, which is kind of typical of open baffles. And so it needed something for bass support below 70 to 80 hertz. That's about as low as it would go flat. I mean, there's stuff there at 30 hertz, but it's down a lot. And so I energized the idea that I've liked for a long time of the mask-loaded transmission line. And mask-loaded transmission line is basically, a good way to think about it is it's a big bass reflex cabinet, typically skinny, at least in one dimension, with a folded pipe inside of it, or it could be a really tall straight line pipe. And so it's kind of a combination of a transmission line and a bass reflex. But for some reason, it allows you to tune them in not a huge cabinet to even below the free air resonance of the driver, which is unusual. It would be not usual for bass reflex cabinet unless it was like really large, like a 5 or 6 cubic foot for a 10-inch driver or something like that. I mean, obviously there's variations, but so anyway, I built a 3 cubic foot cabinet, and I just lost my video. I think it's this cord here. There we go. I built a 3 cubic foot cabinet thinking that I could fall back on the idea of using it as a bass reflex cabinet, because I was at first thinking of using it with this 10-inch Dayton driver that modeled really nicely in WinISD for a 3 cubic foot bass reflex. And the cabinet is just made out of scrap wood, so it's, I didn't spend money on it. It's like stuff I found by the side of the road and that kind of thing. But so that driver didn't work out very well in there because it wasn't really designed for this transmission line. And in fact, Dana went ahead and plugged it into horn response and came up with a line that was a transmission line that was 5 feet longer and a cubic foot bigger. So yeah, obviously it wasn't a good fit. So I tried a couple different drivers in it, and I ended up putting in a 1970s JBL LE10, which is the white cone with the kind of squared off edges on the frame, and it's a capable woofer, typically, and has a free air resonance around 30 hertz, Alnico magnet, whatever. But it doesn't make a ton of bass in its standard reflex cabinet, but it makes really lovely, deep, atmospheric almost bass in this cabinet. In fact, on live tracks where there's not really much bass down low, it brings the sense of the room into my room, because there's like this low frequency content that's there and it's not a purist kind of system, because it is, like a reflex cabinet, it's a resonant system, or like a T-line, it's a resonant system, but it has a really nice effect. It works really well with my open baffle, and it is kind of large. I might try and make it smaller. It's 3 cubic feet, so it's 30 inches tall. On the outside, it's 31 inches tall and 11 or 12 inches wide and 16 inches deep. Actually, 17 inches deep. So it's kind of a big thing. But it's supposed to sit behind the surfboard open baffle.
Do you have a picture of it?
I don't have a picture of it. I just made it a couple days ago, and I'm at Darcy's house right now, and
yeah, okay.
So I don't have a picture. It just looks like a big ugly box on the outside right now.
Oh.
But yeah, I'll make or take a picture of the internals, because I can still open it up, make one side removable.
Right.
You can see what it is, but it's not. I mean, I guess the tough thing is getting the design right And there is a thread, if anyone's interested, there's a thread that's back from 2013 on DIY Audio called accidental mass loaded transmission line. He calls it AMLTL. And it's basically the idea that if it doesn't work out, you can use it as a bass reflex. As it's, at any rate, there's a lot of interesting talk on that thread about this stuff. Transmission lines in general, especially for drivers that like people have made transmission lines with drivers that have a free air resonance around 50 hertz, 45 hertz, 60 hertz, or whatever, like a little full range, and they'll put them in like. One example is like the Voight pipe. A couple of them came years ago to the big club. They were the Cane and Cane Abbey. They looked like a big, tall, skinny obelisk, and they had a couple of 6-inch Fostex in them. And so it's a way of getting bass out of more bass out of a driver that wouldn't normally make it. And Dave DeLugas's Frugal horns he builds, the more recent versions of Frugal horns, basically use the same principles. It's basically a big tuned pipe with a standing wave in it. And it's all falls under the general heading of quarter wave design. And the king of quarter wave design is a guy named Martin J. King. That's who everyone goes back to and bows down to, kind of on the level of Nelson Pass, as far as, wizard kind of guy. Anyway, so I'm just sharing my joy over coming up with a very natural, well, I feel it's a very natural sounding subwoofer. I think it wouldn't be so great. You'd end up with a Bose kind of effect if you wanted to use it with like little satellites that only played into 150 hertz or something like that. I think there'd be kind of a hole there. It wouldn't be very punchy. But for this purpose, I've got tons of dynamics and punch in the surfboard. It's just, I can't wait to share it because it's got a 12, a 10, and an 8, all with sensitivities above 90, some at 96 in the open baffle. So
are you suggesting, Howard, that the pipe should be tuned lower than the bass frequency of the driver you're using?
No, I mean you can do that. It will do that. Some of these designs will do that. I'm not sure it's the best thing. Mine is tuned at about, and I didn't do it mathematically. I did it based on some existing art. My in-wall subs were designed by somebody else, and I basically just expanded it by 2.5 times because a 10-inch driver is 2.5 times more cone area than a 6.5-inch driver. So I just sized everything up. But no, it's tuned to it's tuned to about what the FS on my, which is the resonant frequency of the 10 inches. And you can tell because the driver stops moving at that point and the port puts out a lot. And so I can tell that's about what the tuning is. So, but yeah, man, people do use them tuned up to like 25% or something, or 25 hertz, no, 25% say below the FS of the driver.
Yeah.
And somehow it's just using the pipe resonance of the long tube at quarter wave, and then tapping that with a port. And so that, I'm sure the group delay on it is horrible looking, but at lower frequencies, I mean, with a little tiny driver, if that's the only bass support you have, you're happy to have just the sense of bass. Rather, it's not going to have a lot of, good transient response.
But you get the overtones, and that's what a lot of small speakers do, is that the fundamental is actually missing, but the overtones are there, and that gives the illusion that you're listening to a lot deeper bass than actually would measure.
Right. And then, I mean, the lower bass, actually, I think, can be there also. It's kind of a funny thing because I read some of these threads and people talk about it where they actually measure the lower bass, but it doesn't hit you like a big woofer would. So you don't have just these plane waves in space hitting your body somehow, but then the musical
Mhm.
content is there. So I'm not really sure physically what's involved in all that, but yeah. So, but I mean, like one of the guy, actually the guy that designed my in-wall subs, he I don't think he was a carpenter, and so he would build his things out of like foam core and stuff like that. And he would take the little like 3.5-inch Visa TC9, which is kind of a favorite of a lot of the single driver full wave guys, full range guys, because they're very cheap and they sound good, and it's a little polycone speaker designed for TVs and stuff, or sound bars or something. But it has like I forget what it is, but it's pretty high resonant frequency, like a little over 100, or maybe it's 80, I don't know. And he said he could get like 50 hertz out of it. But you know, it's not going to sound like even a 6.5-inch woofer. It's not, you know, it's not going to have the punch. But it's nice to have a sense of volume there, or a sense of have some kind of bass tone there. But so I imagine that this one that I built, the really low tones, are, if there was any way to measure the transient response of something that was actually playing at that frequency, like say if you could actually really purely isolate a low, I guess it's a low E on a 5-string bass guitar, something like that, it's probably blurring that. It's probably, but when you listen to it, it still sounds lovely. So, at least to me.
Might be fun to get that stereophile test CD out that's got the bass. The guy plays the bass. A lot of those low bass notes, just plucking them. Be fun to listen to that on your System C. I bet it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'll have to borrow that from you if you have it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I played like yesterday. I was listening to. There's an album I've got on the little server called Haunted Heart. Just whenever I try to remember something when it's important, I forget. But the album's called Haunted Heart. Somebody can look it up for me. And there's some really nice bass and drum solos on that.
Yeah.
Is that Charlie Hayden?
Yeah.
Quartet West? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
And like there's like the track called Hello My Lovely, I think it's called. There's a really nice bass and a really nice drum solo on that. And I was listening to that, and it was just like, I was just soaking it up. So
cool.
Yeah, all the big woofers have a really good snap to them, as far as like, you know, like the transients that in the upper part of the bass attack, and then the subwoofer was filling in the lower parts of the notes, and it was just very musical, very nice.
Neat.
So
Yeah.
I've only been working on the thing for a year, so overall, so.
Well, it takes 10,000 hours, so you got 5,000 to go. There you go. The 5,280 work year, right? So yeah.
Now, if we can just get together sometime and share these things. You know.
Yeah. So Renee Yeager, I see you joined us. Thanks for tuning in. Hey. Do you have any stories to regale us with from your end of the country?
Maybe not. Been a pretty slow time.
Yeah.
Right. Not doing much. A lot of reading. Picking blueberries.
There you go. Yeah, I think all my blueberries went to the birds this year. So we got happy birds. Got happy birds around here. But
yeah, you gotta get some of that netting to store them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want some good, you want some good slow projects, you should get a 3D printer, and then you can really, you know.
You can watch the river go by too.
Totally. It's like watching paint dry layer by layer. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
How's Max doing?
Hey guys,
Hey,
I started on the monoblocks a bit, so remember we had this
Oh.
stereo going on. So I can show you a couple things actually. You might find it
Excellent.
useful. So
Yeah.
maybe I can share my screen. If I can share, let me see if I can show you.
Okay, let me see if I.
Let's see.
I'll make you host, and then you should be
Okay.
able to command the world.
Sure. Oh, cool, awesome. Okay, let me just show you. Well, let me start with the case. So Dana, remember a long time ago I got this e-machine shop reference
Yeah.
from you?
One
I
of these,
started-
yeah, one of these days I should try it.
I use the tool really heavily actually, and it's pretty cool. So this is a 3D rendering of the top plate of the monoblock. So it has 20 tubes for the outputs over here on the sides. So one bank here 10, another bank over here 10. So push-pull configuration for the OTL amplifier. And there are cascode input tubes over here. There's an input tube slot at the back, and then there's a cascode. And then this is the driver tube spot for it. I think Renee is helping me on this one again. So I think we're going to use 6BL7 or 6BX7 for the driver tube here, and then 6SN7s for the input and cascode tubes over here. So this is pretty cool. You can actually just see how everything is, and you can create tap points and all that stuff. As you know, I route this thing. Even though I use the tool to do the machine design, I actually end up using router myself. So I don't have a CNC machine. I just route it. So I got the hang of it. So let me show you something here. So this one is actually interesting because using this tool, I actually draw the whole amplifier. So you can see here, let me minimize this a bit. This is basically the entire amplifier, all put together to the size with all the components included, everything. So let me just see if I can zoom in. So here, for example, this is from the input levels, and there are multiple power connectors and everything in the back. There's an XLR connector, and these are the speaker connectors, and this is the tube connection. So if I actually drill down into each tube, you can see the tube sockets in connection to each tube socket. Both the cathode resistors and grid resistors. Grid resistors are 150 ohm and cathode resistors 5 ohm. There's a CCS board. I think we're gonna, Rene, I think we're gonna move this one a bit to the middle or something over here, probably mounted to the top panel, I'm thinking, but for now it is copied from the stereo version. And you can see the driver tubes where the inputs are gonna be going and everything. So this is pretty much the model drive fit for the entire amplifier top panel. So similar to this, I also designed the front panel. Oh, this is the SPICE model. I was going to show you SPICE 2 also, but before the SPICE, let me show you the front panel too. For the monoblock, I'm doing slight difference on the design. So here, it's going to show, in the middle here, I'm going to show the bias voltage, and then here it's going to show the DC offset for the speaker connection, and then the tube testers on the left and right bank. So this is the cathode, 2 cathodes for each tube, and 2 cathodes for each tube over here. And then using this selector switch on the right, I can actually go through each tube and then read the milliamp draw on all the tubes over here. So, and then this is again using the same e-machine shop model. I can play with it and change and all that stuff. So this is another piece. And I found this tool very useful because it actually allows me to change and play with everything, and then and I'm satisfied with it, then I can start actually just machining and stuff. So here, I'll show you another thing. I think, Dana, you showed us the LT Spice last week, so I actually play with it since then a bit more.
Oh, cool.
So here, this amplifier is working. Rene, I was telling you, this is the amplifier monoblock version. It's working on LT Spice using a 6BL7 driver tube. I can see the different points in the amplifier and how they operate. So here, the whole monoblock amplifier basically modeled using LT Spice. There are 20 output tubes over here. There's the input tube over here, 2 triodes. And this whole thing at the bottom is the tube section. I can show you a bit more, maybe zoomed in here. See, these are the input tubes, 6s and 7s. There's a constant current source over here. And then here, this is the cascode tubes at the top. And then they go to the plate voltage basically at the top using those 51K and 100K resistors, plate load resistors. And then this is the DC coupling that happens to the next stage, the driver tube. So this is the driver tube, and it's using 6BL7 over here, using the LT Spice model for 6BL7. And then this basically out1 and out2 indicates the voltage that goes to the grids of the output stage here. And then each one actually indicates what's the voltage level at that. For example, when I click on this one, it tells me, you know, it's basically minus biased at about minus 50 volts or something right over here. And as you click on these things over here, you can see the current draw for each of the triode on the cascode stage. So I'm seeing about 3 milliamp draw over here. And for the other one too, I'm seeing again 3 milliamp draw here. And it's basically, one of them is the push-pull configuration. And then here I can see the gain of this cascode stage over here. So when I take a look at this, between this point and this point here, it tells me the gain. So this is Vn, this one over here. And then I can go through and see what the voltage level is. So as you see at the bottom here, it shows 68, 69 volts peak. So it actually has a swing of about 70 volts peak, 70 volts to 70 volts, 70 plus 70 minus 70 peak swing here. And then it goes to the output stage through this driver tube. There's a bit of a reduction, but I can see also the my out1 to out2 swing here. It is a bit crowded, but here you can see a bit of a drop. But this is basically what the output stage grids see. Cathode, grid to grid, they see this voltage swing basically, roughly about 65 to minus 65 volt swing. So this is basically amplifier working, a mono amplifier working. And then here I can also see the output on the speakers here. So here, there's an 8 ohm load. And if I actually go from here to here, this is my output signal. And as you see, for a nice sine wave input, I'm seeing a pretty nice sine wave output. So we have no clipping, nothing. So with the 1 volt input, I'm seeing about 22, roughly 21.6 volt maximum and minus 21.6 minimum swing. So I can see, you know, roughly how it's working in the amplifier. Kind of cool.
Well, you drive that like a pro, Max.
Yeah. So, Rene, what do you think? I don't know. I didn't show you this one before, but I think I got the hang of it now, so I can model things apparently in LT Spice. As long as, well, the model is as good as the components that you put in there. So I researched on the internet. I found lots of models. I'm not expert in terms of defining my own models, like take a component and then define its model. But it has you can find all those things on the internet. So even all the tubes that I'm using, people put the models for them, and they're pretty close actually. I also validated this with the stereo version. It's actually matching pretty closely what I'm seeing in real life in the stereo amplifier. So I'm happy about this tool in general. So if you're interested in using for amplifier designs or any kind of design, this works pretty well. So, and the other one I would like to show you. Rena, you were asking about the frequency response of the stereo. Mm-hmm. Thanks to Rene, I borrowed the THD analyzer, and then with that, I actually plot the frequency response of the stereo amplifier. This one over here shows 10 hertz to 100 kilohertz frequency response. So I'm seeing at 100 kilohertz, And then there are multiple feedbacks that we play with.
Oh, yeah.
So the bright blue one is without feedback. This is the one that I prefer. I'm using without any feedback currently. So with that, at 20 kilohertz, I'm seeing about minus 0.5 dB drop, right?
Yeah.
So, and if I use feedback, it levels it out, especially with the 47 kilo ohm feedback resistors. It really flattens it almost like zero.
Wow.
Drop all the way down to 100 kilohertz. So, but I mean, without any feedback, I'm still getting pretty good response over here, up to about 20 kilohertz, fraction of a dB drop. So, it's
well,
not
for those of us, those of us who can only hear to 12 kilohertz, you're killing it.
Yeah, exactly. So I cannot even hear that anymore. So I'm about 15K range.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
this works fine. And bass especially is interesting, as you see here. And the 10 hertz, not much of a drop. And if I actually go all the way down to like 2 hertz, the model shows that I can actually go down to 2 hertz, and there's barely any drop in the frequency response. So bass is pretty strong. On the treble, just a little bit of a drop, but it's not really concerning at all. So, and it shows different values of that. And I also did the THD measurement. This is the results for THD measurement. So using the different output volts values here, clipping on the amplifier occurs about 22 volts RMS output. So with that, I am seeing about, with no feedback, I'm seeing about 5% THD at the full clipping power. But normal listening level, usually I monitor around 4 to 8 volt range. So roughly around fraction of a percent THD without any feedback. If I put feedbacks in place, then it actually gets better.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
47K, it gets better. But it's not drastically better. So it doesn't really, I mean, for the listening levels that I'm listening, 0.59 versus 0.18. I mean, it's not a big deal. And it's mostly the even order harmonics, I'm thinking. So based on that, I think we will leave it without any feedback for the monoblock also. So we're designing with Rene the same gain structure, maybe less gain for the monoblock. So these are what I've been playing with. So
nice.
And for THD, thanks to Rene, I borrowed the THD analyzer from him. And then the thing is, it's a bit tedious to get these numbers here. And then I cannot see like a nice spectrum analyzer in there. I came up with this by measuring at multiple points. But I think, Dana, you showed us some software-based tool, I think, in the past.
Sure,
I might need a refresher on that one. Maybe I can look into that to see how, because the thing is, as you change some settings, it'll be nice to see that on a spectrum analyzer live, see what change you made, what kind of difference does it make on the output. So
my favorite is ARTA, ARTA. You can download and run that thing for free if you
The connections, though, that's the part that I'm not. I'll try to remember. You showed us at the announcement.
Oh yeah, or you can give me a call and we can go through it and do a separate.
So some tool. I think I need like a sound card or something, and
certainly if you go read the ARTA, they have a fantastic the first few pages of the manual. That's the PDF shows you exactly the hardware setup. Walks you through it very, very easily. Yeah, but yeah, we can get on the phone or do a video call and do it. And,
that'd be nice. Thanks.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's really a pretty lazy month for you. You really didn't get much done. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you do at home? We don't even go to work, so we are working from home. Still don't travel, so I save like 2 hours every day travel.
That's awesome.
Weekends, which is kind of nice. So
what do you do? You just sip mint juleps all day, or what?
No, I mean, we have meetings and stuff. So during the
Oh, yeah.
daytime, we
Yeah.
just online on the computer pretty much all
Yep.
day, like being in
Sure.
the office. But in the evenings, it's free, so I don't have to, take the bus or whatever. So it's easy to save
Nice.
time. So, yeah.
Do you think this is going to change your work ethic or the way you approach your work after this hiatus, or are you going to continue in this manner? Or
Yeah, the thing is, I'm in the software business. So software business is really set up for this kind of an environment. Like
Sure.
Zoom, we are using right now. We are using Zoom. We have a professional account with Zoom at work.
Yeah.
Actually, Zoom is hosted on our cloud platform, so we actually support this platform. Not the company itself, but the cloud platform that they're using is hosted by us. So ethic-wise, I think everybody is working the same way as before. We just like this. I mean, instead of having this meeting, we are having a work meeting, right? So, and people schedule meetings. We attend those meetings, and it's a lot easier actually because it removes some of the boundaries with travel and time zones and all the other things. So. And most companies actually, like Google and Facebook and us and most everybody, is announcing that this might be like a permanent solution for an unforeseeable future. So some companies extend it for another year, remote work. For software business, it works okay. But for physical things, unfortunately, it's not going to work well. So, but for our business, it is working well. Actually, I heard that the productivity actually went even higher because we measure the check-ins, the code check-ins by everybody, and the code check-ins and the amount of code churn actually is increased since we started doing this remote thing. So
yeah, my wife really likes it because she can nag me from another room now. She doesn't have to be right here. So
sure. Yeah. So
maybe she'll figure out she can nag you from a beach in Mexico, and that who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, or Hawaii.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? So we used to require people to be. My workplace is located in Seattle, so physically, but we used to require people, prefer them to be in the region, close by.
Yeah.
With this remote working now, it opens up for other people to join from any place that they like, and there's no enforcement about it anymore. So,
yeah,
which is good for people, but yeah, we adjusted, I think, and we keep on adjusting. So
now you can go steal employees from all over the country. And vice versa, I guess, is the other problem. Your employees can get stolen from all over the world. Man, yeah.
Anybody else? What else is happening?
This is Mike in Spokane. Can you hear me?
Oh, Mike. Oh,
hey, yeah. We hear you, Mike.
Well, I got my microphone working. Now I'm working on the camera. So I'll mute it again.
Yeah.
You could find at the bottom left corner of your screen, right click, I think, and then turn the camera on.
So, Michael, have you been working on any amplifiers or preamps or anything?
Yes, I've been working on preamps. A phono preamp and some differential input preamps.
Nice. Yeah.
And hybrid power amps, mono blocks with tubes, transistors, and MOSFETs.
Oh, wow.
So I might have some stuff to show you if I can get my camera to work.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Wow.
Give me a few minutes, please.
All right.
Thanks.
So, Renee, have you been working on anything? projects?
Actually, no. I've been working on a battery charger power supply system. Probably not too interesting for a lithium ion battery. So
Yeah.
they're good batteries though. If you want to use them, if you need something that's rechargeable. Dan is using them for his.
It's not going to be a fire starter, is it, Renee?
No, that's the beauty of those. The lithium iron, you can drill a hole in them and they don't catch fire. That's the beauty of them.
Yeah, it's a good thing, right? And they have a long useful life, lots of recharge cycles and discharge cycles. So
Yeah.
those would be probably the best battery so far. Developed very low self-discharge. Another advantage. So
That workbench is pathetic. It's clean. You could work on it.
Yeah, that's a real insult to true craftsmanship, isn't it?
What did they say? That's the sign of a sick mind. Clean work, a clean desk.
Yeah.
There you go.
yeah, see my mind is partially some junk on my workbench.
Nice.
Who's that squarehead? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Right.
Man. So John, you were talking about something when I joined. Did you want to
No,
tell
I
us
wasn't.
about? Oh, okay.
I've got a couple of little kind of trivial projects, but I've got this old pair of satellite speakers that I built years ago based on a design by Lynn Olson.
Oh yeah.
He called them a Me Too, and he and Gary Dahl are good friends. And Gary told me Lynn actually never built or heard a pair of them. He had his tower version that was the double transmission line. And I originally built a pair of those for a friend, and I liked them pretty well, so I built the satellites. But I've always kind of I wish they were a three-way speaker with some woofer support under them. And I've never had good luck blending a subwoofer with them. So I had some old Infinity, like oversized bookshelf cabinets that I repurposed. I don't know, I'll have to see if I can turn my camera around here. I know, so can you see that?
Yeah, that's great. Look at that.
It's just an experiment. These are it's some 8-inch VIFA woofers that are the same family as the little 5-inchers that are in the satellites. And I did a passive crossover. I used my Arta, got the mic out, and I made some electrical measurements and some acoustic measurements, and just kind of trial and error did a quick and dirty first order crossover. So I've got an inductor with the woofers and a capacitor on the satellites, but they actually blend pretty well in the room. And I just kind of quit working on them at that. I've been listening to them and enjoying them and having a pretty good time. And I'm also restoring an old Fender Vibro Champ guitar amp for one of my boys. It was given to me, but no tubes, didn't have a power train. It's kind of a rat rod amp, so I'm not trying to make it look nice, but I got a good driver for it and bought a new power transformer, and it's all put together, but I haven't fired it off yet.
Wow.
John, did you say that the woofers are 8-inch peerless?
They're VIFA.
Oh, VIFA did. And do you remember what the number is?
Yeah, they're a P21 WO-10-08, I think is what it was.
Oh, is it a like a mineral filled polycone?
Yeah.
I think I've got a pair of those. I was wondering if it was the same as that.
I have many pairs of them.
Oh, you do?
Oh, there was a guy on Audio Karma in the subscriber section selling them. He had cases of them several years ago. So about two. So I've got 20 or 24. I can't remember.
Wow.
He was selling them really cheap, like it netted out at about $20 a piece. So I bought one case, and then he was still selling them a month or two later, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to grab another. So I got a ton of them.
What did you figure was the X max on those?
I don't honestly know, at least off the top of my head. There's old original data sheets available on the web for them, but
because I found a data sheet, and it said the air gap was 6, and the voice coil, and the voice coil length was 12 or something, which leaves 8 divided by 2 is only 4. So I was kind of wondering.
Yeah, they're not a super high power. They probably aren't appropriate in an open baffle, if that's what you're thinking. These are, they generally were used in ported boxes, but these are sealed, and they do pretty well in room.
Didn't they start making those again? They were out of production for a long time, but didn't
Yeah,
they?
I think at one time ScanSpeak reissued some of the VIFA woofers.
Yeah.
But they're not available anymore that I know of. They actually might make something pretty similar to this 8, but not the little 5 1/4.
Yeah.
Those little 5 1/4 originally were really nice. They had a super wide and flat frequency response.
Yeah, they sound really good.
No peaking or anything. And
well, your Me Too's are excellent speakers. Considering they were designed so long ago, they really sound good.
Thanks to Lynn Olson, I guess, for that.
Yeah.
Was the box on the Me Too, was it a ported box or a sealed box?
It's a ported box.
Because the larger version you're referring to is probably the Ariel, right?
Yeah. Same drivers, same crossover, but a tower cabinet that had twin transmission lines in it, one for each woofer.
Right. And so Terry, that probably is an example of one that was tuned a little bit lower than the driver resonance.
Yeah, I think we lost Terry, but that,
Lost Terry, okay.
he's not in his little Quonset hut.
The FS on those little woofers was originally right about 60 hertz, which wasn't not too bad for a 5 1/4, but the surround material they use is some kind of plastic, not a rubber. And they've deplasticized and hardened up over the years. So right now they're coming in at about a 200 hertz FS when I measure. So I thought, well, they still sound good through the mid-range. So if I use them as a mid-range, so my crossover right now is somewhere in the between 300 and 400 hertz with my first order crossover I've got on them. And they blend pretty well with those woofers. Same basic cones, same family of drivers. So I thought they might work out to be a pretty good match.
But the woofer has a rubber surround, right?
It does, yeah. It's not the same material. And these are the same vintage era, I think, but they're very pliable, and they hit their factory specs really close when I measure them.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I was actually, I was earlier talking about this mass-loaded transmission line that I'm jazzed about right now, and I was trying to think about a little bit smaller version and wondering if that VIFA would work in there. But I think its Q might be a little bit lower, and it might be better for bass reflex instead of the.
I don't remember. They were in the 0.35 or 0.4 range, but I can't. I'd have to look at the measure I made.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
And I've been helping a young friend. I'm kind of turning him into an audiophile. He's not really an audiophile. He likes JBL.
Oh.
Woo! So more of a high fidelity guy. Yeah.
More of a power fidelity guy. Yeah. But he's got some big, more like I don't know. They're more like commercial type JBL speakers but he's enjoying them. I've turned him kind of into a vacuum tube guy at this point, and he's starting to get a little bit more in with the DIY mentality. So he's digging in and doing things. So.
Oh, good. Wow.
You're evangelizing in Spokane, huh?
Oh, a little bit. I originally met him because he had an AccuPhase power amp on Craigslist a couple of years ago when I first moved over, and he only wanted $50 for it.
Wow.
Well, it's missing one of the amp boards out of it, so it's in pretty good shape cosmetically. And I thought, well, they use the same board in both channels, so I thought I would reverse engineer it and then have a couple PC boards made, which of course I've never gotten around to. I've started, with the online software. I can't remember from which company, but never got it all finished yet, so I could order some boards and try it out.
Oh, nice. Well, winter's coming, so there you go. You got something to keep you busy.
I'm kind of wondering if Dave R is making any progress on the high efficiency open baffle Terry Olson project.
I've had to do a lot of mowing in the pasture for the last couple of weeks, so not much progress. Not much progress there. So I did run across when I was working on that project, I was looking at alternatives for capacitors, and I ran across on a reference on DIY Audio for some relatively inexpensive electrolytic capacitors. Probably be just fine for prototyping for sure. I haven't tried them yet, but I ordered some and I got them. They're made by Nichicon.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this particular one is a 47 microfarad, so about the size of the end of my thumb.
Nice.
Anyway, they're not that expensive. Here's the data sheet for it. It's a UDB series, or they've referred to them as just DB. The part number starts with UDB. They're only about $2 a piece. Huh. So it's a lot less than the big polypropylene caps and the better ones. But, apparently, they're designed specifically for crossover networks in hi-fi sound systems. So I'm anxious to try them. I don't know what the construction is. This data sheet doesn't seem to tell me that, other than it's a bipolarized series. Anyway, so there's that. That's the UDB series. And when I was looking on the Nichicon data sheets, there's also a UKZ series. UKZ that is used for audio equipment, and they're about half the cost. I got a few of those too, and I just thought I'd try them. I haven't soldered them yet, but it looked like it was worth the effort for $1 or $2 a piece.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Where did you say you bought those, Dave?
I got them at DigiKey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can. They've got data sheets there for them and everything, so you can look them up. The DB series goes up to a 47 microfarad, and I think the KZ series goes up to 100. But of course, you can make your own combinations and get values you needed.
Or you can build a chip amp and load them.
Yeah,
I've probably got about, I think 48 in my chip amp
sure.
of those, and they carry pretty good. You get good solid bass out of it.
Yeah. But anyway, they came recommended off the DIY audio forums, and I thought, well, it's worth a try. I looked into it, and I found some available, found a source for them, and they're really not that expensive for prototyping. So
nice.
For the larger values, $2 for a 47 microfarad is not too bad. So worth a try.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they are okay. So they're audio. So they're made to handle home hi-fi type wattage levels.
Yeah, these are rated at 50 volt.
Which
Dave,
is, that's
we've got-
kind of a low, that's a low voltage specification for a capacitor, right?
Yeah, it'd probably be fine on a lot of speaker stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dave, these are non-polar capacitors? Are
What
they
was
non?
that?
Yeah,
What was
bipolar.
that?
They are non-polar.
Yeah, the UDB says it's bipolarized.
Bipolar, yeah,
Or
okay.
bipolar.
Yeah, the KZ series doesn't, let's see. It doesn't say, it's just premium grade for audio equipment. So I imagine it is polarized. I got, but the UDB series says bipolarized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the casing should show, right? Can you show the casing again?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you show the casing again? Casing should have an indication, or not the spec, but you have the actual capacitor, right?
Oh, I had a DB in front of me. Let me see if I can find the KZ. I think I got some.
Are they usually marked if they are bipolar or
I would think so. They're certainly not going to have polarity markings.
yeah?
Yeah.
Usually they'll say BP or something like that on them somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, the typical electrolytics will have big minus signs down one side. And so the non-polarized ones wouldn't have that.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, maybe we're running out of steam here.
Yeah.
Looks like we might have to wait till next time to get Michael's camera. But,
Okay, I found a KZ and
there you go.
it's got the little stripe on the side.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, and the other one does not. So
So did you found the KZ at DigiKey also?
yes, both of these were available at DigiKey.
But what came up when I searched it was Mauser. So they have them too.
Sure.
Yeah. I think the particular values I was looking for were all available from DigiKey, and they happened to be out at Mauser on a couple of them I was looking for at the time.
Right.
So that's why I ordered from DigiKey, so I could get them all at once.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's nice, because sometimes if you're trying to make a lower frequency crossover, you know, capacitors, especially fancy ones, can be really expensive.
The downside is the spec sheet admits that they're only 20 plus and minus 20%.
Right.
So you have to buy a handful of them and measure them.
Yeah, so I got a half a dozen so that I could pretty much guarantee a close match of two of them.
How did they fare when you?
That I was able to get two that matched out of the 6.
Oh, out of the 6, okay.
Yeah, the others were well within 5 or 10%, half the tolerance they promised, but it all depends on what they grab out of the bin, I suppose.
Right.
So
I'll show you my capacitor find.
right.
So I found that when my heat pump went out last month, I needed a new motor run capacitor, and so you can order this thing from Amazon and it'll show up at your doorstep within like 7 hours. Unbelievable.
Right.
But
Now,
yeah, I mean, so
how much do those cost anyway?
well, so these things, so if you go look, they're like $20. So this is a 55 microfarad and a 5 microfarad in one package, common ground, and it's 440 volts AC. So
Those are really good in a 2-amp power supply.
right,
Yeah.
you couldn't hurt this if you tried.
Yeah,
And
a lot of guys use those in their big tube amplifiers.
yeah, so I thought, but
Banks of those things, yeah.
they're readily available. You can get them, like I said, you can get them within hours.
I've used them in speaker crossovers before. It's an oil-filled polypropylene capacitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got one I have no use for. So, somebody needs to design a crossover that needs a 55 microfarad cap, and I'll give you this one, and you can buy the other one. So it turns out my motor needed 45 microfarads, but I couldn't get that overnight. That took 2 weeks.
Can I make a suggestion that if you use that for anything in audio, that you put a bleed resistor off of that thing? It's a real good. We used to at the post office, we were paying $57,000 a pop for these power supplies, and the only thing they needed to do was to be turned off once in a while to bleed down.
Oh.
And I put in a suggestion, and my boss reamed me over it, said that was about the dumbest thing. And he had a master's degree from a major college and, MIT. And no, that's not it. 8 years later, they came out with a change order to put bleed capacitors in those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was curious because I thought, this is a little off topic, but how is it that a capacitor like this would die?
Yeah.
And so, because I thought you can't hurt how would you hurt a capacitor? And finally, I found somebody explained, because this thing's just sitting in series with my motor when it's running, and they said what happens is there'll be a power surge and it'll get 1,000 volts or something.
Yeah.
And that is how, after they get several power surges, they break down.
Yeah.
And so, if you wanted to save your $20 capacitor, you could put a $30 Transorb across it. And so that's why, anyway. So, if your air conditioner ever dies.
Equally off topic question. I had a cheap box fan just stop working, and the capacitor on it it's labeled as 4 microfarads, and it measures 2.2. Would that keep the whole thing from running?
That would, that would definitely do it.
Oh, okay, all right.
I can get you a good deal on a 5 microfarad one. This 5 microfarad comes with and not only is it free, it comes with a 55 microfarad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just show that to the motor and it would scare it into working,
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to bleed them down, because actually those big capacitors, they'll take a set after a while. If you keep them voltage and they don't get bled down once in a while, pretty soon you've only got about 10% that's actually able to charge.
That's why I alternate mine, plus and minus 60 times a second.
That's not a bad idea. It depends on whether you really want an uplifting experience or you just kind of, you want to go base.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe anybody else got any audio news, or shall we call it for the day? It's pretty quiet out there. All righty. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining in. Great to hear from everybody. Made my day.
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
All right.
Thanks. Good job.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you for putting it together.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, bye.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Good to see everybody. Cheers.
Yeah.